Welcome to your Inspirational Astrology Horoscope for Monday, November 27th, 2023. I'm astrologer Dave Palmer, the Leo King, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being a part of highvibe.tv. If you are not, it is Cyber Monday, so of course, Grateful 23 is the awesome code you could put in for everything High Vibe, subscriptions, schools, apparel, everything that's connected to highvibe.tv. Make sure that you check it out, highvibe.tv. That's where all the deals are. You can't use the discount code if you want to subscribe to the app. You still can go to the apps, of course, by making your subscription at highvibe.tv. Of course, it's been completely revamped, all new updates to the apps and to the website. I truly appreciate all of you. Been here for a long time. It actually is now weird because it was the lunar eclipse that was in Gemini that started this channel back in 2011. So we're talking about a full moon in Gemini today. So going to be interesting, but I just wanted to remind people out there that you want access to whether it's the Premium Plus membership, which of course gives you access to everything High Vibe, plus all my schools weekly and access to every school I've ever done. Or, of course, you can get the monthly or the 6 month at this 20% off right now. It only lasts this Monday, so make sure that you get it. Woo! Hope everyone's doing wonderful out there. It's good to be with everyone out there in the astrology, spiritual world. I know that these are still weird times for sure, but you got to remember we're here to bring the light. I love a good full moon in Gemini reminding us of the truth, the light, and why we're all here. Truth. Although that could be a little bit difficult to see, but do you have to always see it in the physical? Can't you just already somewhat embody it and know it and get rid of somewhat? Anyway, let's take a look at this astrology because this is quite the full moon in Gemini that we are coming into here. So, I guess I could make myself a little bit bigger here. You know what I mean? Like, I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving out there. I know I did. So, this full moon Gemini happening. Well, it's happening as I'm doing this horoscope exactly in 3 minutes. So, it's coming to its apex right now. I made it right on time. Full moon in Gemini at 4 degrees of Gemini. The sun at 4 degrees, of course, in Sag, but with Mars there, and we're having a big T-square to Saturn that's 0.58, about to click back to 1 degree. It's been here at this 0 degrees where it's stationed for months. So we are definitely going to start to see things slowly move ahead, but let's not forget Neptune is almost to its station. We're going to see that station direct November 5th. So you're going to be feeling like the wheels are spinning and we're still not getting fully anywhere that we really want to. And I just want to be honest with you all with that. Especially if you deal with very hypersensitivity, this full moon in Gemini can really rattle you mental health wise, anxiety wise. And this is definitely a time for you to, number one, remember that this is the mind trying to figure out what looks really crazy, especially with Mercury during this full moon, which Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, and it's in detriment in Sag. It's in shadow. It just went shadow this weekend at 22 degrees because we're going to see Mercury go retrograde December 12th, retrograde back to New Year's Day, and come back into Sag and station direct at 22 degrees. So we're in the shadow period now, but what's even more interesting about this Mercury shadow, and it's very connected to this full moon since the moon is in Gemini, it's square Neptune, which is stopped in retrograde, exactly during this full moon. So this sets the precedence of this full moon. You want to talk about warped reality? I know I've been talking about shattered reality for years. Well, now that it's shattered, now all the pieces are warping. And number one is, this is definitely a time in your life where Where are those battles going on? Where can we stop in our mind? The mind battle, the belief battle, the ego battle, especially because this is with the Sun and Mars in Sagittarius. They've both been together, of course, through Scorpio. That's where we did see the Cazimi happen. First time we've seen it since 1991 in Scorpio, but we're no longer in Scorpio. We are in Sagittarius, Jupiter's sign, and Jupiter is retrograde at 7 degrees of Taurus here. It's also with Uranus, of course. That's retrograde too. So I've been telling everybody on High Vibe every day, every Deep Astrology week, all the shows that I do every day. This Sag season they're out of stock. But, the CVS or the store brand is in stock of Sag. So it's Sag, but it's not Sag. Jupiter's retrograde. It's in Taurus. And unfortunately, Taurus and Libra are being disposited by this South Node. That's in Libra. So Venus, of course, at home in Libra. Very interesting because this Venus is finishing its semi-square, of course, to the Sun. It's finishing. And, of course, it's been in semi-square to Mars, too, for a while. This Venus is in quincunx to Uranus, the two planets that rule relationships. So things can feel really off. I'm not going to lie. This is not where things feel on. This is a very odd full moon. And I'm going to be honest with you. Where are we releasing? Trying to have it all figured out. It kind of reminds me of like good luck trying to figure out Britney Spears' Instagram videos of AI. Good luck. And trying to answer, why are they doing that? Because it's fully been proven now. Like, in the most creepiest way. Like, the stuff out there finally to prove it is just beyond comprehension. But at the same time, does that matter? Well, maybe. This is where this Sun and Mars has to really... Because it's in Sag, it's such a big sign. Mercury's, of course, here, and Mercury square Neptune. So there's an emptiness to the mind's understanding, one, especially trying to understand where the soul is trying to go. Where is this adventure going? I mean, there's a lot of amped up energy. Feel fully amped up with these Neptune aspects happening, and especially with Neptune, that this is, about a week before Neptune will station direct. So it feels, especially when Neptune's retrograde and stopping, trying to find the light at the end of the tunnel and not seeing the light. And Mercury's trying to find that light and is very optimistic about it, but it's not being seen, right? Mercury's in its detriment. Mercury's not happy in Jupiter's home. So Mercury's in detriment, and it's squaring Neptune, which, of course, is domiciled back home, of course, and has been for over a decade now in Pisces. And we have to also remember that this is in Neptune. So this full moon to me is highlighting the future and just having a better understanding about that and knowing where you're at in the moment of that future. That's how I would read this full moon, because let's not forget that when Neptune stations direct December 5th, it's going to go all the way to 29 degrees of Pisces and almost go into Aries, and it's going to station retrograde. So we have all the three outer planets coming to their end. Of course, Pluto, 28 degrees. We know it's going back into Aquarius to 0 degrees on January 20th, and then we'll station retrograde back in and ingress into Capricorn September 1st, if I'm correct. Yeah. So, now Neptune's going to join the party of coming to the end of a sign once it stations direct. And when a planet stations direct, it understands where it's going because it's predetermined. Right? So Neptune's like, this is me coming to the end. 2024 is my last full year of me being in my own sign. And the end of the end is 29 Pisces. So, of course, this is where people are becoming crazy religiously, thinking end of times, and they're losing their mind because it feels that way with Neptune at the end. And this is why you get things like the Salem witch trials to, people making up their own crazy religions, like twin flame universe and shit like that. I mean, this is not crazy. This is actually, a circus that you have to understand that it's a circus. Because this is a full moon in Gemini. Mercury's the ruler of Gemini. And unfortunately, this Mercury is really, really difficultly aspected. Now, Mercury is trining over the North Node, which is finishing up its trine with Eris here. And so we've been seeing this North Node Eris. I don't like these two together. I'm just going to be blunt. Especially because this has been dispositing Mars energy because North Node is in Aries. Eris likes Mars, right? This is definitely that war energy. Of course, it could bring up the understanding of the spiritual war we're all in, spiritually. But with Chiron also there as well, even with Mercury trining this North Node, it's getting a gauge like, you've got to figure this shit out and take action. Define what the problems are, define what is going on, and not bring that strive and discourse, because no matter what situation you're going through in your life, fundamentally seems crazy, or why aren't things moving as quick, or why aren't things going as fast? So this can bring up frustration, because this full moon in Gemini, that's all stimulated, ready to go, ready to figure things out, ready to move, doesn't have any positive aspects to it. And on top of that, it's an extremely big opposition to Mars, right? And then it's this T-square to Saturn in Pisces. So this is our self-undoing. This is where our subconscious can try and take us down, right? This is where we could get lost with Mercury, of course, in square to Neptune. That's stopped. So you want to talk about feeling like you're opening a door and you're opening into the vastness of the void of space, and there's nothing calling back. It could, many people could start losing their trust in God or situations. And I would say, don't go there. This is where there's also a lot of, Chiron issues with this North Node here. A lot of people want to say wounds. To me, it's more about how do we really get to this key to unlock within ourselves of not feeling like we look or our lives look, or why are the actions we're taking going exactly the way that we want them to go. I mean, a lot of it is going to be based upon that we have to have a better understanding of where we're at in this cycle of the cosmology of our universe. There's big questions on where that's going for the future for us. Of course, on the more micro level here in our experience here in this reality at this moment, whether it's financial, Jupiter, Uranus, retrograde, Taurus, we saw all that Scorpio energy, Venus with the South Node here in Libra. There's an imbalance all over this planet right now. Everything feels wobbly. And so it's really easy for us right now to become not so cynical, but much more feeling like we're not getting access to God, or that we're not getting access to the divine full return energy that we want back. We might be getting messages. We might be getting that, tap on the shoulder, it's going to be okay. But that's one thing. Another is to actually see it happen. And it can feel like that we're at the edge constantly, having to get through some people minute by minute, some others hours by hours, some people it's week by week. It all depends on who you are. But it definitely is a big thing to pay attention to, that, no matter who you are on this planet, we're at a moment right now where, hey, it's not going perfect. And again, these are in areas in our life where other areas are going fine, but that's the imbalance, right? Usually it's in the areas that most of the time it goes great. Those are the areas that aren't working. And then most of the time, the areas that have gone not too well in our lives are going good. And we're like, what is going on? And I think a lot of this is a deep spiritual understanding of, hey, these are spiritual tests that are making us understand better how much we can really go farther and understanding those areas that we're having those blocks in that usually are good for us. And that comes with the big lessons of, where does our ego play into this? I'm not going to sit here and destroy people's egos and call you an egomaniac. But the Sun and Mars here, it's that expectation of how it should look, literally, believe it should look. And with Saturn here, that's been squaring this Sun-Mars conjunction, it's really like, what you see might not be what God has in plan for you here, or how that's going to look. It's going to look different. So we got to get out of the control, because Saturn is control. So is Mars, though. Mars thinks that, because we have our foot on the pedal and our gas heavy on the pedal and we're in control of the steering wheel in the car, we think we're in control until, we blow a tire or we blow an engine, I mean, there's things that are out of our control. And so this is definitely a time where, with Jupiter, Uranus retrograde, and Uranus and quincunx to Venus, the two planets that rule relationships, and they're both being disposited by the South Node here, and Venus, of course, in here in Libra. This is about us getting rid of the part of ourselves that keeps trying to justify or convince ourselves of how, certain things that aren't working out will be fine if I just keep sitting around and accepting it. I think there's a little bit to that, but I think a lot more of it is like, well, where's the action to take? There's definitely an area where things are out of balance. We could be definitely putting too much in one area of our life, especially at Sag season. So this is definitely an interesting time, because Sag season's definitely cut off from its normal Jupiter vibes. So it feels definitely like we have to understand, we have a lot of energy. Where do we put it? Are we putting it too much into one area and not another? Or maybe we're, it's a lot of mutable energy. So it's very mutation-like energy right now. Things are mutating, spiritually mutating, not genetically mutating. And I feel like this is an important part to have a greater understanding that this moon in Gemini, the truth is simple. And that truth right now is hard to see. Doesn't mean you can't see it, though. This is about a better understanding of where there's areas in your life where intuition-wise you're having to really pay attention. And do you really have to try and convince yourself? That's what I feel the biggest lesson is. It's like, why do we have to try to keep convincing ourselves about things? Whatever is intuitively true, it's true. And let go of that timeline and when it should look true. A lot of this has to do with look, also the beliefs. This is definitely Pluto and Capricorn testing all of our abilities to grow up and to have a better control of our subconscious, to have a better control of our unconscious. But also, more importantly, it's really a test of wisdom of the adult within us to be willing to grow, to take on what seems harder. It might not seem like the work you're doing is getting the same payback as normal, no matter what it is. Whether it's in a job, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in whatever. You could be in this place where you're like, I am fucking going all out right now, and this Mercury ruled moon in Gemini can't understand that Mercury's in square to Neptune. And we're going to see that Mercury-Neptune square 3 times. We're going to see it, of course, with Mercury direct, with Neptune retrograde like right now, and then we're going to see it with Mercury retrograde, with Neptune direct, and then we'll see it with both direct as we come into January, near the end of it. So, we're going to be dealing with this confusing energy for a while. More so, I would say this full moon is bringing it up, where I would say up until December 5th, it's going to feel eerie. Neptune can feel like we are beyond farther than we feel that we can be, or it becomes more sloppier than we thought. It's like looking at a kitchen after you cooked in it for 4 days or something and you didn't put one dish away, and it's like, I don't think I can clean this, and you're starting to see cockroaches and shit, and you're like, I just would rather implode it. But it's like, that would be the worst thing. My main concern with this Sun Mars, this combustion energy here of Sun Mars, could be, people believing that they can just like blow up or go on some new adventure. And a lot of people are very, overcooking how big something's going to be at this moment, and need to kind of chill the fuck out for a sec and go, okay, what stuff has already been working? What stuff right now is truly in alignment in your truth? This would not be a good time to try and get a quick fix to make things feel better, which can be very easy to do with this Sun, Mars, and square to Saturn, and especially that they're both now separating in the square. So we saw the exact square coming into Thanksgiving. But I feel that a lot of people right now can easily just go, whatever, but there's a Mercury square Neptune here. So whatever stuff's coming up about contracts, or more importantly, just your overall bigger understanding of your life, keep listening to spirit, keep letting things trickle out as they will. They're not going to come out as a flood of info. There's not going to be a flood of info. Everything looks like it's not fully understanding. 1 second, things are going to look like, well, I guess that's a loss. And then, boom, something will keep it alive. And, okay, I guess it's not over there. And then there's other places where if you believe so much, it's probably not going to happen, right? Especially if you're creating the story. So this is where we have to stop creating this idea that's turning into a massive story. Especially because it's almost like clinging on for some sort of hope without looking at the truth. And that could be hard for the ego to accept the truth right now with this full moon in Gemini that's in this T-square with the Sun, Mars to Saturn and Pisces. It's like the soul knows what's really going down. No matter how hard it might be, this Saturn Neptune here is like, okay, I know where things are really off. I know what's intuitively not feeling right. I know, if somebody asks you about, what are you doing on this date in the future? You already have an initial feeling like, I don't know. And it's okay. This is not a time to be hard on yourself about if you're hesitant about making decisions over ideas that are too far out. This is about focusing on why are you hesitant about the things that are more important in the moment. Let's not forget that, Jupiter and Uranus are going to be coming together next year in 2024 in April at 21 degrees of Taurus. So, this Jupiter-Uranus energy we're not going to see anything even about this Jupiter-Uranus for a minute here, not until New Year's Eve, and then not, of course, until we get Uranus direct as well as we're coming into this new year. So, when it comes to this like big, because this is so Jupiter, right? So Sag energy, that it's like, the vision is about these awesome things that are going to happen. Doesn't mean they ain't going to happen. Just means that right now in this moment, pretty hard to see how it's all going to come together. So just take the little bits at a time. Take it a day at a time. Right now I would be, especially with the full moon in Gemini, this is about just living in the moment. And how is the environment around you? The people you're around. That's what brings up this Venus that's going to be with the South Node this week and the quincunx to Uranus here in Taurus. Is like, if the environment that we're around is with people who are trying to maybe like pull us into their own strings of how they want their own values to feel, how you should act or how you should be, like, it's not about getting into a battle. It's just about like, okay, well, that's their thing and you don't have to respond. I think that the worst issues with Chiron and Aries in this North Node here is over responding, like over trying to place your, like, hey, it's not even value. It's more like, let me put my stamp on why I'm going to tell you this or whatever. It's just like, let it go. I think we create more actual wounds with Chiron and Aries the more that we actually try and go for, putting our stamp on it. Like letting people know this is where I'm at with you. Especially as this is Venus that's been in some hard transits already, but it's getting ready for even harder with that square to Pluto that's coming a week from this full moon here. And of course, we've been seeing Mercury and Venus that have been in sextile. We'll see, of course, them come back. But, this is definitely where also Venus is getting ready to oppose the North Node. And Venus is in Libra and the North Node's in Aries. So, it's Mars, the one that's going to come up. And I think when Mars comes up to trine that North Node, which we'll see coming towards the end of December, it has Jupiter's ready to come direct, and Mercury will come direct by then. And Saturn's moved out of these first couple degrees. Like that's when things are going to really start flying. So if you're, this is a moment of you just being like, hey, I'm going to be excited with the things I have in the moment now. You can find a way to make it through whatever the situation is. Jupiter and Uranus are still working for you. They're just working for you, not in your own vision. Okay. They're not working the way that you want them to. They're working for you in a better way from a higher place. And so no matter how steep it all looks, especially with Pluto at the end of Capricorn here, just keep doing that one foot in front of the other. And this is where Mercury square Neptune to me would be like a whiteout, right? Where it's like snowing so much you can't see, but at least you can see your feet in front of you. And so it's like, just keep doing that. If you slip, you slip. But, I know it's like, there's a cliff there, but, it's not like you're going to take a step in front of you into like a cliff energy. You're going to always keep on some sort of path. So it's like staying on that path and having using the sensitive energy, because for those out there that are seeking, this is where you're going to get sucked up. Okay. So you have to have a good environment around you, staying busy in localized settings. This is not a big travel moment. This is not a big, moment for you to just go lose yourself into God knows where. You can get sucked up easily into the universe right now. Especially, I'm looking at this full moon triggering some massive solar flare energy, especially with all the mutable aspects and with Venus getting so tight in opposition to the nodes and in conjunction to the nodes, but also at the same time seeing this Mercury square Neptune that's going to come back around multiple times. And this moon in Gemini is square Saturn. This is where we really are confronting fully where there's been massive delays in the challenges we're having. And those challenges are all connected to the areas that you're thinking about repetitively, that you're trying to find solutions for, and that you're believing with all the best might that you got, that you hope that there'll be a solution found. You have to look at, there are solutions happening. Instead of looking for the one solution, look at that every little thing that's happening that keeps it going to where there's a problem means that there is a big solution, because there's things that are continuing to keep you on that. If it was a real problem, it would be a problem that already happened, dealt with, and you would be, and if anytime you tap into yourself right now and you look at whatever you think your problem is right now, guarantee you can't feel yourself actually falling down the cracks into the worst pit of despair, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to manifest that way. This is definitely walking on a tightrope right now. It's very circus-like. When it comes to the world and news, there's a lot of propaganda going on, especially with Mercury square Neptune here. So let go of the news. Don't get lost in that shit right now. They're about to push with this full moon some crazy shit, especially with Neptune stationing for the next week. It's all fucking a weird show. We're going to see glitches like crazy in the Matrix, like as if Britney Spears' face coming off again and shit, but in more of a deeper way of the whole universe. So I would say use this to have fun. The positive is Sag Gemini. I think the Saturn square doesn't make it too easy. It kind of limits that energy. But I would definitely be watching your mental health, about your expectations and becoming like toxic positive. because this is Sun, Mars, and Sag square Saturn. And so, it kind of reminds me of when somebody dies. I'll use a hard thing like Saturn typically does, right? Like when somebody dies, somebody starts to like, well, I'm going to make the best of this moment. It's just kind of like, it's okay to grieve. Like, or another good example would be like, well, yeah, you got cheated on and they're taking everything from you. It'll be okay. I'll be okay. It's just like, hey, it's okay to accept spiritually that you were feeling that already prior to it. So why are you freaking out about that now or trying to be toxic positive about it now? If you already knew about it, why weren't you just positive about it before? No, I was. It's like, oh man. This is just bringing up a lot of where Saturn and Neptune, I think, have taught us here since March of 2023. We've only had Saturn in Pisces since then. We have not seen the Sun and Saturn meet in Pisces yet. So we truly have not even felt the Saturn energy. And we're going to, for the first time in our lives, when we come into, end of February, beginning of March of 2024, you will feel for the first time, not just Sun, Saturn, and Pisces, but Sun, Saturn, Neptune, and Pisces, which is the craziest Pisces world ever. We already dealt with in 2013 the most amount of planets we'll ever see in Pisces in our life. One of the biggest conjunctions of all planets of our life too. So, when it comes to this feeling like the whole universe is fucking high on fucking acid, yeah, it's going to feel more like that. And I think the more that you're trying to force God to listen, or you might not be connecting enough to God. Maybe you're not praying enough. Maybe you're, feeling numb about situations. This can feel very numbing. It can feel very like you're running through a fucking Minecraft world, and you have to just remember this too shall pass. No matter how many toxic, positive, manifest people out there are going to tell you, well, you can change that right now. It's like, I'm an astrologer. I always give it to you real. Like, I'm sorry, it's Neptune stopped until December 5th. And with Mercury squaring it and with the full moon in Gemini activating all that at the same time, yeah, it's going to feel fucking like we're all kind of on a circus and the top is coming off the circus and we thought that behind that curtain was going to be a petting zoo, and really it's a fucking alien UAP, fucking AI, Britney Spears, fucking weird, fucking Paris Hilton dog morph thing running around. And it's like, this is not where I wanted to go. Don't feel like you're going into some wrong timeline right now or something, because this is where that space between time itself, the space between spaces, that's what you're feeling the most. The veil is extremely thin. And you'd think that because it's really thin that you're going to be able to understand everything. But just because it's very thin, that doesn't mean anything. That's what Sag is having to learn, right? Like this energy in Sag is having to learn that no, you don't know everything just because you believe that, well, the veil's thin, so I should be able to see more. If anything, the veil's thin in our life right before we have the actual big, amazing thing in our life when we actually believe otherwise. It's always like, oh, I don't believe this is going to go good. And then it's like, wait, what? It did, and the veil was so thin, you were right next to it the whole time. Or the treasure was right beneath you the whole time. Or, you lost something and really you found it. It's like, so that notion of just because the veil's super thin doesn't mean that you're able to see everything right now. Nor would I go out there trying to go out there and see it all and figure out the whole universe all in one moment and figure out your life, because this is what I think is causing the massive stress with the Sun. Mars could cause inflammation, headaches, muscular issues, headaches, tension, especially with Mercury square Neptune. That deals with psychological issues very deeply. People who need help, losing it, or people who have been, not diagnosed or not, choosing to try and, force themselves to be perfect in the spiritual world. Like, I won't do anything or get any help. Like, this is where, the cracks become too big in the mind. And, wherever help that you can get right now from friends or people, that's only so much. You need to get, people who can actually be honest about this stuff. Don't forget, it was 2015 when we saw Mercury retrograde in Gemini that was in square to Neptune and did this same thing. That was when I went through the worst panic attacks of my life, and I'd been going through it, but it really peaked out. So anybody who's been going through anxiety for years and is starting to reach panic, or maybe you're schizophrenic or something, or maybe you've got something out there, bipolar, whatever's going on that's been slowly building for years, this is where it pops for people. So instead of trying to fight it so hard by living by what you think you should be doing to have control of it, you need just help. And this is where Uranus and Jupiter can help you, and Taurus. There's whatever route you choose. I'm not here to tell you which route, but I'm just telling you, there's people here to help you. There's people that have ways to help. And in many ways, we're all needing help with Uranus and Venus and quincunx and Uranus. Not really helping us in too many areas, if anything. I keep looking at this, as a time in our lives where Saturn is also in a weird semi-square here with Chiron. So, anybody trying to act like they've got shit under control right now is hiding some sort of inferior, kind of like complex that they're trying to mount up as greater. You can tell who's real right now by who's being just fully vulnerable and authentic, as like, the ship ain't going perfect, but the ship's running at least. It's like, hey, at least if everybody that went on Gilligan's Island would have listened, if the skipper and Gilligan would have been honest about the boat before going on a 3-hour tour, they wouldn't have ended up on the island. But at the same time, maybe they were supposed to end up on that island. But this is definitely that moment where people are acting like things are more okay than they are. And to me, that's psychotic. That we live in a world that everybody wants. I want everything to be, organic, or I want everything to be, truth, or I want everything to move to a new dimension, or I want everything to be a new earth, or whatever. Yet you live in a world where everybody's trying to act better than they're really doing, especially when Saturn's in semi-square to Chiron here. And this is a full moon in Gemini, and we're talking about truth. Well, you should feel like you're in a crazy circus, and at any moment a carny is fucking, taking something that doesn't look like a piece of corn, you don't even know what it is, and a fucking goldfish, and like throwing it at your face. And, whether it's financial to relationship to business to spiritual to psychological to everything out of balance in certain areas in our life that we're used to having balance, whether that's geopolitical all the way to mundane, all the way to your individual life. This is where it's okay for you to stop trying to deny. That's the other part of Saturn, is the denial. The only way that you can make a decision to make something better is to admit when something's not working and not going well and not on the target that you want. And in Pisces here, it can be very easy to, try and say, no, everything's fine, and brush it under the rug again. And especially with Neptune stopped here, this is where you get those people that are really weird. Like, everything's great. Oh my God. And they start saying that shit and they look like that. The only people I trust right now are people who are vulnerable and honest about shit. That's okay. I'm allowed to have that. I'm a human being, but I'm also an astrologer. So anybody's out there trying to act like, oh yeah, it's perfect. Like, okay. There's a lot of hidden things. Pisces, I know people think Scorpio is like the secrets and the hidden shit. The most secretive, the most hidden is Pisces. The most sensitive. It's easy in the 8th house because that deals with very sensitive issues like death and being naked and intimacy and sex and that kind of trust level and on those realms that deal very personally, that can actually also be very harsh. But In Pisces, it can be full blown, like Requiem for a Dream. Like just keep shoving that heroin in your fucking arm, or that mother that just keeps eating diet pills and has fucking lost it and saying she's going on a game show to everyone, when really when she goes, everybody's like, who the fuck is this bitch? And she's fucking lost it, and the fucking refrigerator's going all over the place. That's the energy we're in. Requiem for a Dream. And, I think that the best grounded approach that you can have is like, are the problems really that bad? Why don't you just be honest with where they are and where are you slacking? Because Pisces deals with where we're trying to brush under the rug or wait another day or, slack it. And this truth bomb, that's the way I would look at this full moon, is like, okay, well, there's these little adjustments you can make. There's these truths. There's these things that you can do, Like, the problems are more inflated than they really are is actually the truth, but they become more inflated the more that you deny them. Especially communication-wise. This brings up communication a lot. So people could be, I don't want to say lying, but they can be exaggerating something more than what it really is, right? It's a humbling moment where the test really is going to be, can you just be real and honest and be like, I'm optimistic, but this is the truth. This is where I'm really at. This is what's really there. I had to be honest with everybody on High Vibe last week. For the first time in my life, I had to raise the price of the subscription because the inflation's too high, and I've tried to keep it so cheap for everybody because I get it, but then it's got to a point where I've almost lost everything. So I'm like, I gotta put it to $13.99 a month. So it's like, never changed it. But I had to be honest. I had to be honest with people. Like, I went negative in my bank account fucking like 3 times in the last couple of weeks. Just because everything is way more higher expensive than ever. So, especially in digital and technology. So it's like, that's just the way it is, being blunt and honest. Being blunt and honest with my fiance. And thank God I have a good partnership. I think that the big test is, if you're in a relationship, whether it's friend, lover, or anybody, are you being fully honest with where you're at in your life? What's sensitive to you? What's maybe even your fear that's spiritually scary? Like, if you're avoiding those things, they're not going to go good. The whole lesson here is to be honest, be open. Like, even I had to be, I had to let go of Alex, the employee that I had for the last half year. Like, sorry, dude. Shit ain't fucking working out right now money-wise. So fucking, and many cards are being declined all over the place. People are out of money too. So I'm not afraid though, because at least I'm being honest to people instead of trying to come up with a lie like, no, it's going to be fine. It's like, no, I got to make some adjustments and I got to figure this out and I got to cut costs here and I got to make some moves there and I got to do this. And because there's a silver lining to all this, which that's really what Neptune, when it stations direct here in the next week, will be, which is like, I'll just use me for an example. That's my scenario, right? My situation. It's like, but I also have been paying off 6 years of business debt for fucking 6 years that ends January 19th, which is kind of weird, right? And I'm on weekly payments on my last loan I consolidated. So it was an 84-week loan, $2K a month or $2K a week on Mondays pulled out to keep this fucking thing alive. So fucking every Monday, I fucking stress the fuck out because 2K just gets sucked out, not including other debts that are business related too. So, but when I come into January, talk about fucking 6 years of fucking stress gone. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's always kind of the hardest before we break through. And this is where, I think we were looking for more than we're getting back. And we have to remember that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's not going in a positive place. But that's my blunt and honest truth for you on this full moon in Gemini. Can you communicate? Can your ego accept it and be positive in that way? Like, well, there's lots of options. That's the good news. There's lots of options. Saturn's just asking for you to stop looking at the option that it's all falling down, right? That you need to self-destruct or self-implode or self-undo beautiful and great situations. That's what this is. So to me, it's not that crazy. It's us overinflating it. It's us making it bigger than it is. It's us, having to grind, though. It's the end of Pluto Capricorn. Now, of course, it will come in one more time in 2024 for a very small time, but still, it's still the end of Pluto Capricorn. And Neptune getting ready to station direct November 5th, and it's going to go to 29 Pisces, and you thought this show, and you thought this world, and you thought all this stuff was weird. We haven't even seen it, even as its craziest yet, and this is just warming up still. So, but the main lesson is to not invite the strife and discourse that Eris can do with this North Node into your life. You have to accept that fucking apple that Eris is trying to throw in and create chaos. So, this is the time not to do that. We create, with Chiron here, our own strife and discourse by accepting it as strife and discourse. I'm looking at the situations as realistic. These are the times. This is the energy. This is also what's going on in my chart. This is also what's going on in my destiny cards. This is how I respond as a 5-1 pure MG. This is like getting back to the fundamentals spiritually. That's the best thing you can do with Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. Getting back to your chart. Getting back to your human design. Getting back to the simple spiritual ways. But you know what? I predicted it. How many videos you've been seeing of all these channels? I was New Age, switched to Jesus. And they're just popping up everywhere and saying that astrology is the devil now. And that each sign, and they incorrectly translate what happened because they purposely also translated things to be in a certain way at the Council of Nicaea. So, but this is where people are like throwing it all up. And I don't think you should just throw it all up to God. I think this is where it's like God gave you all the great tools. You still connect, get out of the numbness there. Or if it's numb, also understand this is Neptune and it feels confusing, but God's always with you. So it might feel like you have to believe more in that connection than you might be feeling. But I think a lot of it is, getting back to your fundamentals here, getting back to your spiritual fundamentals, getting back to the things that really, in a very 12th house or Piscean way, get back to the imagination and one that is also an imagination that's not undercutting the honest truth of what's happening and not trying to believe an imagination that's just not going to happen, a realistic one. So I hope that helps because I know it can feel really weird out there. Not going to lie, this is not a good chart. This is not a good full moon. I mean, even for the fact that the full moon is in Ceci quadrant to the South Node, I don't like that. I really think that this is, people looking for savior energy, whether it's through a machine, a computer, a person, a fucking bank account, a fucking, let go of things that just aren't going to happen. Start with the basics. Is your environment good? Are you around people that are positive, that believe in your mission, let yourself be your unique self, aren't causing strife and discourse in your life? Are you at your spiritual fundamentals? Are you doing the spiritual work within yourself? Are you doubting your beliefs in spirituality and starting to try and change religions right now? Because that would be horrible. Horrible. Which we're seeing tons of. This is the stuff I've been predicting since Age of Deception back in 2016, and you're seeing it going rampant right now. And you see, and you know what? You can see in the eyes of a lot of those people too. Like, well, it's like they want to say something about it, but they can't. They're just restricted now. They've restricted themselves to something they don't even know. So I wouldn't be changing your beliefs. I wouldn't be changing your perspectives and starting to go down the worst hole that this belief is going to happen. It's not. This has been a long holding pattern since Venus went retrograde back in July. And it has trying to make you look at the most beautiful things that bring true happiness and love in your life. I mean, I'm lucky. I'll be honest. I feel like I'm lucky because we had a daughter in that time. So like, geez, having and raising my first child, my young daughter, who's going to be 14 weeks this week. The last 14 weeks have been epic because I'm able to go to that, and no matter if I have no money or not, or things are looking like they're over, or I have to defer payments on fucking this or that because you can. Whatever you got to do to fucking keep going and know that this is a fucking massive holding pattern here, and keep it all legal with Pluto and Capricorn. You're fine. It's not like there's people sitting up waiting at night before you go to sleep like, this person deferred a payment. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people are not, like, they're all run, like, it's only a computer system. So people can feel very guilty. Remember that Pisces deals with guilt, the highest of guilt, at a south node with the Neptune south node quincunx. And it's easy for people to feel shame or guilt over where they're at of their past and how imbalanced things have been. I could have been doing things better. I should have done this. Let go of what you did in the past. Take the lessons, but apply them now without shame or guilt. Let go of the guilt or the shame to yourself. Let go of however things went, because it was going to end up sloppy no matter what you did. It was going to be sloppy. So, and trying to understand all this in 1 millisecond or minute, or just constantly, watching fucking like some weird video constantly to hope to get counsel and advice that's just telling you to just hope and pray 24/7 without any guidance of what's going on or very clear direction of what's actually happening, and floating all this pie in the sky shit, or just saying, well, it's just because the timelines are changing. It's like, it's a lot more than just that. Like, you just can't, right now, this is Sag. This is the problem with Mercury. It's just like, it's all because of that, or it's all because of the cosmic rays, or it's all because the solar flare that's going to come this week, or it's all because this, or it's all because, in the twin flame universe, because my twin flame out there is not responding, or, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta see that there's a lot of doors here, and there's a lot of doors already, and there's a lot of timelines that you're already in, and there's a lot of energy that you can really do right now to really continue to face the situations without it going dismal. Anytime that you're going to quit, anytime that you're going to fail right now is on your own self. You're your own failure, especially right now by quitting, or especially right now by trying to force things. That's not going to do it. It's about just being humble and confronting the honest truth, being of integrity and of moral character, and doing whatever options are available that seem limited. But God's given you just enough to get through. And by me even saying it like that isn't the real statement. God is giving you exactly what you need to get through. Stop putting a limit on how high it should be, right? It should only be limited to this feeling at this height. Unlimit that to all I need is whatever is needed to get through. That will help so much. So, because I can't believe, I'm changing my way of how I'm dad now, how I speak about the spiritual community at large. Like, I've always been a place of like, here's the exact thing that's happening. Let me actually physically show you. Let me actually go down and show you it all. And let me give you it based off the guidance that's based off that, not based off just me fucking throwing some shit out there or just throwing the same mantra out there 24/7 or trying to tell you, yeah, just re-engineer your brain and you'll manifest everything. Like I'm an astrologer. So if you really look at it, there's nothing that you could have done different in the past that could have made this moment any different. There wasn't an availability to. That's Pluto Capricorn. You were already limited to the scope and to the situations that already happened without control. So relax. And try and have some fun. Watch a movie. Do something. Read a book. Draw a picture. Watch something funny. Play some music. I'm about to do spiritual dance music right after this. I have to go set it up, though. I already got the music, though, so I haven't done it for 2 months. That's how much has been going on, trying to keep everything together here. Got to run it by myself. But that's just like, hey, God's giving me enough. God's giving me still the studio to do it and the ability to do it. So I'm blessed. You got to look at the blessings like that. Stop looking at I want more. Look at what is just at the highest level already, the blessing itself. This is a true test of that. What do we got card-wise? You gotta be kidding. I was just shuffling this thing. This card's been popping up for me for days. 7 of Swords. I think this is the lies that we tell ourselves. Again, I brought up Mercury square Neptune. So no wonder it's been showing up a lot. King of Wands reversed. Yeah, this is when we lose our own integrity of how to hold our happiness, we lie to ourselves. It's like, I'll only be happy if I feel happy this way. That's a lie. I think a lot of this is removing the things that in our minds are, this is how it should look in my life. It's like, whatever those shoulds, those coulds, those woulds, those are all the lies we're telling ourselves. Just get through each day. It might seem like it's a sliver of a crack that you know what? You are a professional slip cracker right now. And you should be blessed that God is slipping you through these cracks. Stop lying to yourself and trying to open up the biggest hole in the universe to try and move yourself through and to be all demanding, like, I'm moving through this. God, open this for me. Stop trying to part the fucking Red Sea. Okay? You'll do a lot better. We're all slipping through this crack right now. And the reason why is so we don't trigger self-undoing or quitting. As long as you make it through. Again, this is a limited time. This is not my stance of life or the stance that you should take about life. This is the moment, and the moment coming through this whole week in December, and December is going to feel like that. And these are feelings that feel like end times, but they are not. It's more of an illusion and just things, and especially look at the collective. Most people feel that way. Most people are clinging to a fucking religion that they have no idea the roots of, and that's where they're losing their mind. And, people want to go to heaven more than they want to be here. And that's something in the collective conscious we have to shift, but that's not going to be easy. There's not a lot of light workers left. And we've lost a lot of them. And a lot of people are too afraid to speak this kind of truth. A lot of people want to, when it feels like this, just try and offer some sort of, circus of hope and promise them the world, but really they're a carny. And they're selling carny books and saying that a carny that was resurrected, 2,000 days ago at the carnival on the cross of the zipper. Read this book and you'll get through it, like that's what's the carny show is crazy right now. And disconnect yourself from the news and, you know, we're getting through, even if it does feel like we're slipping through the cracks. At least we're getting through, and it's slippery. It'd be worse if it was not. I appreciate you all. Remember, Grateful 23, 20% off all subscription on highvibe.tv, the website, to even have access to all the apps with your login. You control it all through highvibe.tv. Check out the new highvibe.tv, and especially before the prices do their increase this week, so you can get the prices that they've been for almost 5 years now, and you get it with 20% off on everything, and schools or the Premium Plus or whatever. Apparel, anything that is connected on highvibe.tv. I appreciate you all very much. I hope you had a blessed and amazing Thanksgiving or just weekend if you're not in America. I appreciate you all. See you on High Vibe, or you can wait and watch my spiritual dance music right after this, and then see me in a couple of weeks for just the new and full moon horoscopes, and you miss all the fucking badass astrology every day. All right, much love.